Nothing Rob Bell has said is new. What's new is this framing, is the labeling. I am like you, and yet I believe these things that you don't believe. There has been this long conversation for 2,500 years about what heaven is and who gets to go and what happens to your body and who do you see, and are good people really damned to hell just because they don't believe in God X or God Y? These are questions that have been central to theology and theological conversation forever. Even in the writing of the Bible, there was discord among the writers of the Gospels, about what Jesus meant when he said, the kingdom is here, the kingdom is now. Did that mean there was going to be an apocalypse any day, and the world was going to end, and we were all going to be in heaven because the world was going to end, and there was going to be this next realm? Or did it mean, heaven is now because I'm here and we're Christian and we're going to be good to each other and we're going to be kind to each other and we're not going to follow the unfair rules of the existing social order. We're going to try something different. We're going to try this social experiment in sort of ultimate kindness and mercy. Is that heaven? So even in the days of Jesus, this was a conversation. The conservative Christians don't like him because he opens up heaven for the largest possible group of people. And he leaves heaven to God's mysterious power. He's a Christian, and he believes that Jesus is the mechanism by which everybody gets to heaven. And what I said to him was, my Jewish relatives who were murdered in the Holocaust, do they get to heaven through Jesus? Because that's offensive to me. I would like to think that they get to heaven through their own martyrdom, through their good deeds on earth, through their own religious belief and their faith, and I don't think they want anything to do with Jesus having to on their path to salvation. But he's a Christian, so it's hard for him to go as far as what some people would call universalism, which is everybody gets to heaven no matter what, and we're going to leave questions of the mechanism aside. He's riding this wave that's happening in evangelicalism in general, which is that the younger generation wants a broader interpretation of some of these very stringent rules. And you see it in gay marriage, for example, where younger evangelicals are so much more in support of gay marriage than their parents. And I think you have to go back to sort of the days of the moral majority, 1978 and 9, to sort of see what happened there. The moral majority was established in the late 70s as a PAC, and it was a political movement that got conservative evangelicals, who were then called fundamentalists, out of their homes and out of their churches, who had been taught that political engagement in the world was bad and wrong. And it got them out and got them politically active and voting and really fired up about Roe versus Wade especially, and fighting abortion and fighting some of these culture war issues that have become so predominant today. And by extension, those kids started going to college, and they started being out in the world, and they started associating with other kids who weren't necessarily from their culture and their world. And suddenly, if you have a best friend who's Jewish or even just not a born-again Christian, you want to feel like that person is okay with God. And you chafe against these rules that say, you're in and you're out. And I think this generation of evangelicals really does chafe about it. And I think the young people really do struggle with this, because central to evangelicalism is this idea that Jesus is the way. And how do you both believe that and believe that your best friend, who's Muslim or Jewish or Buddhist, is going to get to heaven? And Rob Bell just opens the tent and says, it's going to be okay. And I think that's very appealing to people. This conversation about who's in and who's out, and what you have to do to get there, and who gets to decide, this is a really worthy conversation to have at all levels of society, not just in Christian circles, not just in conservative circles, not just in evangelical circles. Like, I think if we're all going to die and the people who we love are all going to die, it's really worthwhile to struggle with yourself and your tradition and figure out where you stand on some of this stuff.